Welcome, everyone, to From the Ground Up. I'm John Boitnott. This is a Grit Daily sponsored podcast where we talk to entrepreneurs all over the world about the companies that they're working on and their entrepreneurial histories. And the hope is that the folks watching the show will get some information that helps them run their businesses better. And today I'm joined by Javier Loya. He's an entrepreneur and philanthropist, an investor. Welcome to the show, Javier.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, great to have you. I know you're in Texas right now on a pit stop from a very busy day. You're in Houston right now. Uh, Tell us about yourself and your background, your entrepreneur history, and what you're working on right now. I believe it's a company called GETCHOICE.
It is. Yes, thank you. And again, thank you for having me. I mean, it's always exciting to talk to fellow entrepreneurs. I'm a native Texan, grew up in El Paso, first generation Mexican American, six of seven kids. Lucky for me, my parents instilled a work ethic in us very early and really pushed education. And so I was fortunate enough to get a quality education at Columbia in New York City. And then from there, I was first exposed to the commodity brokerage or commodity trading business. At that time, it was oil trading. And from there, I was like, hey, I caught the bug. And I said, I want to do this. And so, like a lot of things in life, was right place, right time. And the founders of the firm were having partnership issues, like a lot of entrepreneurs have. And they broke apart and brought me on as a junior. I left with one partner and brought me on as a junior partner, and eventually had an opportunity to buy him out and build a business. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of how I became an entrepreneur, and from there just continued to kind of find businesses and help grow them, and hopefully get them to a point where we can monetize them.
Great, great. So GetChoice. Tell me about GetChoice right now. Is it you were mentioning when we talked before that your philanthropy is a lot of what you're doing now at this point. Is GetChoice more related to philanthropy, or that's software? Or just tell me to
No,
break
no,
that
no,
down.
no philanthropy there. The only philanthropy we do there is to the IRS, and no, no, we're for profit. It's a software optimization company, like many companies that entrepreneurs build, that kind of pivoted from procurement, helping people navigate when power deregulated. From there, we really found a need, really a niche, where big businesses needed to figure out how they're procuring not just their energy, but also their telecom, their waste. And on top of that is like, how do you maximize, or how do you utilize what you're using, and certainly mitigate the cost, but also maximize your energy spend. And as you know now, with data centers and big tech, I mean, it's a very important niche, and so we were growing it. And that was actually an offshoot of my core business, which was commodity brokerage. So we set that up back in 2002 when power first deregulated in Texas, then rolled out kind of in the country, and now it's a standalone, very very agile, very very successful business.
Yeah. So, where brief question about that. I'm sort of, where do you see that going in the next 2-3 years, as far as power, and all of us, folks, companies choosing or regions choosing their power. Where do you see that in the next couple of years,
Well,
two, 3 years?
I think like all businesses, I think AI and I think technology is going to vastly affect everything we're doing. Now, fortunate for us, we kind of being in the commodity game, you're always forecasting, you're always kind of thinking ahead and looking around the corner. So fortunate for us, we had put a lot of the pieces together on what we thought could really help businesses out. So we're kind of a little bit ahead of that curve, but like any entrepreneur, you got to be paranoid about the future. So you've got to be, pedal to the metal every single day and growing with it. And so, could it change in a couple years? Yeah, certainly. But I think ultimately, if you own a business and it's a big business and you've got numerous offices and lots of employees, you're always looking to say, how can I make that more efficient? And that goes down to the commodity aspect of it, which is the utilities you're using, and so we think just continue to make it seamless and easy to use, efficient and cost effective for companies, then that is certainly the future.
Yeah, let's talk about leadership. You've had a history of working with a lot of different companies across energy, as you mentioned, finance, sports, even. And when you reflect on the whole path, what has remained non-negotiable for you as a leader, for all the the entrepreneurs out there who are working on those qualities?
I mean, I think we're all products of our own experiences, and certainly for me, I mentioned earlier a little bit about my background, and so being uh, children of immigrants, certainly I learned right away what a work ethic was about. So having a work ethic, working hard, is certainly paramount to being a successful entrepreneur. Okay, and that's not a eureka moment. Everybody knows that, but I think part of that hard work is really resilience because you're gonna get knocked down. You're gonna get rejected from the bank. You're gonna have tough times making payroll sometimes. You're gonna have, if you're successful, you're gonna have other companies poach your people. You're gonna have partnership issues because your partners have different goals. But I think if you keep that hard work with resiliency, that is so important. And I saw that every day from my parents who were working every day to feed 7 kids. So I knew that still with me. So that's a non-negotiable when we hire people or what we're trying to do. We didn't, we abided as much as you could by COVID, but we said no way. We were ahead of Jamie Dimon by saying you have to have your butts in the seat, because there's just so much happens with people in the office, and so that goes hand in hand with hard work. I think the other thing that is non-negotiable is accountability, and that goes across the spectrum, as you mentioned, from sports to businesses, whether they're big or small. I think you have to have a measuring stick, and you have to know that, hey, this is your role and this is what it's expected of you. And so I think that's one of the first things we do at the onset when we're interviewing someone. We want to be very clear who you are and what's expected of you. And I think that people respect that. And I learned a lot of that through sports. I mean, some of the most successful general managers or coaches are the ones that are forthright, direct, and tell you exactly what they think and exactly what they want from you. No politics. Now, there's politics and everything, but if you can minimize that, I think you'll get the most out of people. And I think the last one is team culture. I think it's very, very important, especially as entrepreneurs, as you're building something, you've got to get the right minded people. You got to get the right people on the, with the analogy you want to use, the train on the canoe, but you got to get everybody pulling the same way. And that goes, that's why hiring is so important. It's so important. And you're not always going to get it right, but eventually, if you start making exceptions for people, it changes the culture. And you as the CEO, the president, that's one of your top jobs is set the culture now. And if you're the hardest worker, you better believe everybody's going to try to keep up with you. If you're not, that's going to translate to everybody.
Yeah. Um, one of the things you mentioned in there, which was that's happening right now, is people are headed back to the office. Even in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I'm at, I'm over here in the Bay Area. A lot of companies are really just kind of switching gears now in the last several months and bringing people back into the office. You touched on it very quickly, but just maybe dive in a little bit more about why it's so important to get folks back in the office these days for you know all of those folks who are still kind of slowly making their way back. Why is it so important to get the folks back in the office these days?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're people are you know have a herd mentality. You have to be around someone. You have to go. It's too hard. We're not. I mean, I can get it. Being out in San Francisco, I can maybe believe that there's coders that can be alone and do some stuff. Okay, there's a role for that. But ultimately, businesses are about collaboration, or about ideas, and that doesn't happen in a void. I mean, those things happen because people are pushing each other, and then that goes back to what I was talking about before: accountability, work ethic, all those things. It's very easy to sit at home and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to check on my portfolio. Or, oh, you know what? I can just run around the corner and drop off this errand. Or like I was, I mean, like a lot of young entrepreneurs, if you got a young family, a spouse, and I'm in commodities and you're staring at a computer and you're busy and you got to be attentive, very simple for your spouse to say, hey, honey, you don't look busy. Can you help me with this? So I I I couldn't believe that some of the people wanted to stay at home and work. That's a tough job. I mean, a place with the right culture, going to the office, it should be fun. It should be exciting, and you just don't get that. I mean, there's something about going to a live stadium to see a football game, a basketball game, a rugby event, because that's the way humans are wired. There's energy, there's focus, and all those things come out. And it can only happen when you're there. So yeah, I think that I think from and I believe, I mean, some of the biggest tech companies were the ones that changed the workspace area and integrated different things and lifestyle into their office, and they're the ones that are making it easier for people to work at home. So it's a dichotomy, but I really believe that that there's nothing like sitting next to someone and kicking around ideas.
Yeah, no, and a lot of those big tech companies are now bringing people back to the office, whether it's Google and Salesforce.
Yeah.
I've heard, by the several hundred, thousands, the several hundred or thousands in each of those cases, and many other come. I know Meta is doing the same thing. They're just bringing people back in much more than they did. You mentioned resilience, which is a huge subject for because entrepreneurship is a long game and it requires the resilience. You touched on it briefly. You've had very big highs. You've had challenging lows. As far as mindset goes, I think that's the key thing. What are some mindset practices for entrepreneurs out there that they can help them stay grounded and focus on what's coming, stay forward focused. But what are some mindset things that have helped you that
Yeah,
have
I mean, I
helped?
think I think for me, I can speak in my experience. I mean, for me, first and foremost is my faith. So I think having a routine and knowing that hey, there's a bigger being out there and all those kinds of things, and prayer, whether you call it prayer or meditation, for me that's grounding. That keeps me humble. It keeps me hungry. It keeps me disciplined. So that was key. The other aspect is health. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you are going to have stress. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're a human, you will have stress. And so, how best to kind of handle that is to make sure you're at your physically best. And there's all kinds of studies, and this stuff. I'm not you know talking any secrets here. There's a lot of information out there about what being healthy, eating right, doing all those kinds of things, exercise, and what a difference it makes in your mindset and your clarity of thought, all those kinds of things. But hey, just like we talked about before, hard work, resiliency, well, discipline goes hand in hand with that. So part of your meditation practice, your whether it's your faith or time alone. And also your exercise and working out and eating right, that's discipline. That creates discipline. And if you're not a disciplined person for different reasons, you can create that routine, lots of apps, lots of different things, or heck, get a trainer or you're on the West Coast, you can get a breathing trainer, you can get a spiritual trainer, they're all out there.
Yeah, you can use them on Zoom. Maybe you can access
Yeah,
it.
don't you can absolutely.
Yeah,
And
you could be in
nothing,
North
and
Carolina,
nothing,
but
and
you
nothing
could.
like paying for it. And I'll digress a little bit only because I do want to speak out to my entrepreneurs that work so hard and sometimes don't do it. I know how it works too. Just like my spouse hates working out, but if she paid for it, she's gonna do it because she
Oh yeah.
values she values a dollar more than she values oh, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like the 24-hour fitness kind of gets away with it a lot because you set it and forget it. You pay you
Yeah,
pay them once a month and then you just forget they're there and they get their little payment
yeah.
each month and you didn't even go to the
No,
gym.
no. You'll have more guilt if the trainer shows up at your house.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no, go away. I don't feel like doing it.
Oh yeah, no, at that point you're in it. You've got to do it. All right. So speaking of working out and staying in shape, you're in the NFL. You were the very first Hispanic owner in the NFL, and you've always been an active voice in promoting diversity in sports leadership in general. And what was that journey like? Tell us a little bit about that, and how are you using that influence, that seat at the table these days?
Well, thank you, and I feel very fortunate to be part of the Houston Texans and also the first Hispanic owner in the NFL. And a lot of credit goes to the McNair family and specifically Bob McNair, who was a legendary entrepreneur who had his share of you know tough challenges and even bankruptcies before he hit it big with Cogen and then eventually with his sports franchises. But Bob had a kind of a vision to you know, call it altruistic and say, hey, you know what? I want a team that's representative of the community. And so that was what I was able to do is kind of invest and be one of those investors with fellow other investors that kind of made up the uh, ethnic background, if you will, of Houston. And but also, it was good business. And so Bob also recognized, hey, this is 2000. This is going to be our 24th year here with the Houston Texans, and this is around 2002 is when we came on as a franchise. This is just on the heels of the U.S. Census in 2000. And so at that point, I think Houston was 33% Hispanic and growing. I mean, now it's over 40%. And so when your client base is a majority minority city, then absolutely you want representation that can speak to your community, that can speak to your clients. And so I think that were all the different reasons why I got excited about joining, but also, now as an entrepreneur and also someone from this community, I feel a responsibility to pay it forward, to say, hey, so I do spend a lot of my time with philanthropic efforts directed specifically to minority communities, just underserved communities, and just both sharing my story, but also sharing a few bucks where I can to help kids get an education.
Yeah, no, let's talk about the philanthropy aspect for a little bit, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who'd like to learn more about that as something that they can integrate more into what they're doing. But why is giving back such a integral? Just talk a little bit more about why it's so important for you to give back to various
I,
communities.
I mean, I think we all do in a certain way. I mean, I know lots of entrepreneurs feel that way when they're creating jobs, and absolutely you are, and that's the lifeblood of this country. So in a lot of ways, you're already giving back. But I think I felt a certain responsibility, just given that I was afforded opportunities. I'm an immigrant, so I felt like if I can help other kids and other people out, and for that matter, entrepreneurs. I mean, if you look at the statistics, the fastest growing demographic of any entrepreneur in the United States is Latina women. They create more jobs, more entrepreneurs than anybody else. So I think part of having the opportunity and having a lot of fortune and being blessed, I think is to give it back a little bit. But I also think that at the end of the day, I mean, buying another plane, getting a place in Aspen, traveling the world. Okay, great, that's fun. But I tell you what, if you can make an impact on a kid who gets to go to college, that's impactful.
That's where it's at, right there. So how as far as leadership style, you're a proud Mexican American. How has your heritage influenced your business philosophy and leadership style? That's a question I would want to ask.
Yeah, I think part of we kind of answered that a little bit just from my background and non-negotiable. So I think part of that immigrant background and a lot of it, first of all, U.S. is a country of immigrants, right? So
Yeah.
so if you'd ask this same question to an Irish entrepreneur 100 years ago, he would probably say the same thing. He saw how hard it works, and so a work ethic, resiliency, all those things are important. But also, I think education, knowing that, hey, if you really want to advance your business and do those different things. So I think as an immigrant, both seeing it from my parents, but also seeing that ceiling was at a certain level because they didn't have an education. And my dad had an eighth grade education, my mother a third. So I think knowing, hey, wait, if you want to access the game, if you want to, go where deals are being made in boardrooms and top companies, and they're recruiting from Ivy League schools, and you've got to do the path to get to that place. You've got to get in the game, and that there's the best way to do it is through education.
Did you ever face stereotypes? Did you face barriers, hurdles along the way? What did those look like? How did you overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, we all have, right? I think we all do. I had a little different background only because growing up in El Paso, that's 80% Hispanic. So I didn't really see a lot of like racial stereotypes. Like I've certainly dealt with it a little bit in New York and that kind of stuff. I think more so my stereotype for me was more okay. Um, the top law at the time I was thinking about I was a political science major, and I thought I was going to go a career in law. And as I speak to entrepreneurs, the world doesn't need another lawyer. So so thank goodness I didn't pursue law. But I think back then it was just the stereotypes were just what we saw. It was like, hey, the top law firms, or even for that matter, the top Wall Street firms only recruit from these schools and only recruit from these things. And so there's still an aspect of that because part of it is in going back to why we need to be in the office. People do business with who they know and like. It's just human nature. So if you spend your time, if you're a decision maker and you spend your time on the golf course, or you spend your time at the country club, or you go to these different private clubs, or you go to these different events, or you're an entrepreneur and you go to these different these different self-help groups, or you join EO, or you join YPO. All those things are where ideas get cut. And so that stereotype, yeah, I mean it's changed a little bit, but I never looked at it like, okay, only a certain demographic, only a certain ethnicity does. I think it was more so they went to the right schools, they scored high in their scores, top firms recruit from the top schools. But ultimately, being in commodities, we don't care about any color. The only color we care about is green. So at the end of the day, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, I think the hard work, the discipline, the resiliency, all those things to create a business, that's what really matters. And I tell you what, I mean, and especially in the commodity business, I think that is the closest level to a meritocracy, I think, and in tech as well, because you see programmers, quants from all different backgrounds, right? But then it becomes a different aspect of, okay, you can code, but can you communicate, and all those kinds of things. So I just think that there's still some stereotypes, but if you're a young entrepreneur right now, you're living in and you live in the U.S. This is the best time to be starting a business, because I think a lot of the trailblazing has been done, and technology's just makes things a level playing field for a lot of people.
Let's talk briefly about rugby. The Houston SaberCats, you're involved with them. You're helping put rugby on the map in the U.S. And so, why rugby? And what can American sports culture learn from rugby culture? Tell me
Well,
about
first
that.
of all, when this show airs, I hope it's now we're referring to the Houston SaberCats, champions of the league, because we
All
we have
right,
we're playing in the championship. But no, I
great,
think
great. Congrats.
like a lot. Look, I have passion. I mean, for me, sports, football, American football was a way to get an education, so I've always had an affinity towards it. And my oldest brother played rugby in college, and then at business school in Harvard, and so he's always been involved. He brought the team to Houston, and I've got a lot of FOMO, and so I was like, there's no way
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know,
let.
man. Those guys don't have any pads on. They are
Well,
tough
not as a player, as
mofos.
my brother running the team, or being the majority owner. I'm like,
Gotcha,
there's
gotcha.
no way I'm going to let my brother have a championship in rugby, and I've got to hear this for the rest of my life. So I
Right.
opted
Yeah.
in and bought a piece. But no, it's been exciting, because I think the culture, the rugby culture, speaking of resiliency, but just and that mixed in with a very physical sport. I think there's a saying, and some of the not to insult the soccer enthusiasts out there, but I think the saying is, you know, soccer is a game of gentlemen played by hooligans, where
Mm.
rugby is a game of hooligans played by gentlemen. And so it's an
Ah,
interesting dichotomy, because they will beat their brains in all day long, and then afterwards shake hands and have a meal together. And so it's
yeah.
and a lot of beer. So,
In a lot of Yeah, I was thinking, the rugby guys I've known, they were pretty heavy. They were pretty heavy drinkers. I mean, I was in my 20s, then, but still. So okay, but good for you. I hope Houston SaberCats do pretty well and win the championship. We'll see. So best of luck.
thank you.
So what's next for you? Business impact, personal evolution. Is there a final mountain you'd like to climb, or you're just getting started?
Yeah,
What are
yeah. I
your
mean,
thoughts?
I don't think there's legacy or. I think as an entrepreneur, you start thinking like that. I mean, certainly you got goals and plans, but it's always a day to day thing. Now, you caught me at an interesting time, because I just sold one firm, and so I'm a little bit on the victory lap, but I'm looking to jump back in, roll up the sleeves, and GetChoice, our company, the software optimization company, to the next level. So I think continue to grow that. I still feel like I'm a young man in the game. I've got, my kids are in college now. Wife's a dynamic interior decorator. I might end up just being her assistant for a while. But no, I think we're going to keep growing. I still
Stay-at-home
have,
husband.
yeah, stay-at-home husband. I still got, hey, that's not a bad job. If you guys can get that job, that's a good job.
Yeah.
But no, I think focus on some of the charitable things I'm doing, education focused, just and continue to grow and continue. And I'm a believer of kind of the Vern Harnish school of thought, where you're a gazelle that gets up every morning, and if you're not running faster than the other gazelles, then you're gonna get eaten by a lion. So you got to keep growing. You got to be working hard, and you got to keep moving forward always.
All right, Javier Loya. How do folks out there find out any more information on Get Choice, or you, if you'd want anyone to follow you anywhere, or just tell me
I mean,
what people. How they follow
I'm a little bit late to the game. Even though I've been involved in tech companies, I've been a little late to the game in social media. So I'm not that far. But getchoice.com.
It's okay.
If you want to optimize your energy needs, your utility needs, we're absolutely there to help you. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not, and that's my extent to my social media. Although I am addicted to TikTok, I got to tell you. So I'm not on it, but I'm
Yeah,
viewing everything else.
it's very hard to get away from the scrolling. Whether it's YouTube, Instagram, it's just it's definitely. I got to put it in the schedule and then just shut it down after not too long. But
Yeah.
Javier, great to have you on From the Ground Up. Javier Loya, who's an entrepreneur, NFL ownership involvement, also part owner of Houston SaberCats, and philanthropist. Great to have you on
Thank you for
From the
having me, and
Ground Up.
best of luck to you and your show and all you're doing. And it's great work to keep our entrepreneurs working and building America.
That's where it's at. All right. Thanks, Javier. Take care.
Take care. See you.